Jking is president of International Christian Concern. He joins us with more on Pastor Kashkumbayev. Why was he rearrested?
You know, Gary, that's an interesting question. We think it's because of pressure. We had put a lot of pressure on the government. A lot of people were calling the embassy. And this, interestingly, this is a country that cares about their reputation to a certain extent. So that's probably wrapped mostly around economics, but they were getting a fair amount of heat. So I think they let him go on these extremely trumped-up charges in the beginning, and then rearrested him on extremism and terrorism charges.
Well, what specifically? Why are they doing this, Jeff?
Well, that's a great question. I think, you know, it goes back to some of it is religious persecution. So he is a Muslim. He's ethnic Kazakh. He's a Muslim that converted.
A former Muslim.
Former Muslim, sorry, that converted to Christianity. And he's effective in his ministry. And so initially, there was a gal in his church that had converted, and her mother was not pleased at all, and she complained to the authorities. But also the government, you know, it's old Soviet-style rule, so they are very sensitive to any threat to power.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, because we know Kazakhstan as the so-called moderate Islamic state, former communist under the Soviet Union, but it's not so good for Christians there.
It's not. No, it's not at all. You know, last year they passed a law limiting the number of approved religions, and evangelicals are not on that list. So it's a complicated case where there's layers. There's different layers. There's political. There's religious. But they definitely cut back. They said there's only so many approved religions, and the evangelicals are not on the list, and they're a threat to power. So if somebody is effective and their church is growing, it's bad news. And the people inside are telling us that since the crackdown with Pastor B, that things are getting significantly worse, and they're very frightened.
Well, the man you referred to as Pastor B, let's get back to him. When he was released the first time, he was reunited with his wife. We have video of that. And she has tears as she's reunited with him, but I suspect they were not tears of joy, because he was showing her where he had been tortured, showed her his leg.
Yeah, she's heartbroken in the video. It's very poignant. And, you know, he's in terrible health. And for a time, in very old Soviet-style tactics, they put him in an insane asylum. And he had sent a letter to the UN and said that he was desperate. He says, it's not going to take much for them to make me a vegetable. Please help me. And so on that...
Drugs, maybe? Are they
probably
injecting him with mind-altering drugs?
That's what they used to do, as you know, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're doing it still. That's part of what they can do when they put him in an asylum.
Well, this is hard to believe from a U.S. ally, a so-called moderate Islamic state. Tell me, what is his health like in prison? He's 67 now.
He's 67, and he's in poor health. He has any number of chronic conditions. I think he has a health condition. He's got chronic gastritis, different things. So he's in very bad health, and that's where he was saying, I'm desperate. They'll turn me into a vegetable. So I think we need to apply pressure. This is a country that's susceptible to pressure. They want to have a good image. So it's that whole scenario where, you know, you want to turn on the light. When the light goes on, the roaches scatter. So you want to apply political pressure, and you want to bring things to light. So
our viewers can contact the Kazakh embassy in Washington, D.C.
Absolutely.
What else can they do? How powerful is prayer?
Well, prayer is always part of the mix. We want, you know, it's the foundation of everything. But I would say don't stop there. So pray, call the embassy, and you want to do that in the afternoon. They receive so many calls, they started limiting. They said, well, we'll only take calls in the afternoon. But then also call your representatives on the Hill, because what we're trying to do is get them to call the ambassador on the carpet and say, come over and explain what's going on with this case.
And all of this will make a difference.
Absolutely. This is a country that cares about its reputation, for economic reasons.
Okay, Jking, International Christian Concern, thank you for joining us.